So, you're from an orphanage, broke, and a weirdo with no friends. Ha! The loser pool guy better cut ties with him as soon as possible.
When I attended the alumni reunion to meet my only friend, Kevin, his fiancée asked me to break up with him because I'm not suitable for him. I had some thoughts about it, so I asked Kevin directly. Hey Kevin, would it be bad if I cut ties with you? Kevin said this.
Yeah, let's do that.
Understood. I made up my mind and went to cancel all my money in the bank where Kevin works. I'm Daniel White, 33 years old. No girlfriend, no marriage history. I'm not completely uninterested in romance, but I'm more focused on work every day. Ever since I was young, whenever I get absorbed in something, I lose sight of everything else, and without realizing it, my relationships end up falling apart. It's a bad habit, I know, but it's something that hasn't changed even as I've grown older. Still, I have one friend from elementary school days whom I've never been able to completely cut ties with, even though it's just one person. Every few years, I'll get some trivial contact from him, and I still call him my friend. There's no need for us to keep in close contact. The time humans have is really minuscule compared to the time of the universe. For me, having someone with whom I just occasionally touch base rather than endlessly chatting feels like a perfectly fine relationship. After all, it's efficient. Today, I received a postcard from that friend. It's from my classmate from elementary school days, Kevin Parker, and it's about an alumni reunion. To be honest, I don't remember any of my classmates except Kevin, but I'm pretty sure I haven't seen Kevin in at least 7 years. I started to worry that I might forget about Kevin if we don't meet soon, so I put a tick on my attendance and sent back a return postcard. There was no hurry, but I sent it back the same day I received it. Some people seem to reply with a one-word message, but I don't bother. I don't want to waste anything.
Daniel, do you have any mail that requires a response?
My secretary came into the president's office and asked me. No, there was a postcard, but I dropped it in the mailbox earlier. I replied, and my secretary, Megan, widened his eyes like a cat and got angry.
I've told you repeatedly not to reply on your own.
Even though Megan is extremely beautiful, she's ridiculously sensitive. When I reply to a document from a British company by simply saying yes, Megan was frighteningly angry and then took charge of the mail.
Daniel, you are too bold for anything, good or bad. You always lack words.
She's noisy, but Megan is an incredibly capable secretary. Thanks to Megan, I've been able to avoid unnecessary business dinners and socializing with other presidents.
What did you reply? What was the content of the postcard?
I've been running my business for 7 years now, and it would have been tough without Megan.
Do you remember the sender's name? Which mailbox did you drop it into?
Megan, thanks as always.
Would you please listen to me?
I wonder why I get scolded even though I said thank you. Wait, were you asking me something? Megan cleared her throat and said,
I was asking about the postcard and how you replied.
Maybe I have a tendency to tune people out when I'm lost in thought. And maybe Megan is used to having to repeat things multiple times, but she never gets mad about it. Her patience is really something. It's an invitation to an elementary school reunion. A postcard from Kevin Parker. Got it, Megan said, and she started looking something up on my computer. My company is located in a corner of New York. It's just a 2-room apartment serving as the office. The adjacent room serves as both the reception area and Megan's office, while my room is the president's office. I do a bit of everything, so I often describe myself as a jack of all trades wherever I go. If it's a job where I can make money by helping people, I'll do it. Megan is the only employee, and I hire others as needed. To be honest, only Megan kept up with me, and the rest of us were angry and sad and quit. I've been called eccentric since I was little, but I never really realized it. People always leave behind words like awful or weird and walk away.
Daniel, how well do you know Kevin Parker? Depending on your response, you may have unintentionally offended him.
Megan asked me while glaring at the computer screen. Megan is usually calm, but if she gets mad, it's bad news. She seems on the verge of it right now. I tried to explain things as politely as possible to Megan, who was clearly ready for battle. Kevin Parker was the first guy I got into the same class with in 3rd grade. Just like I was called weird, Kevin was also treated like an odd in the class. The difference between being weird and odd was that Kevin was probably laughing while I was always frowning. Kevin's parents were big shots at a major bank, and maybe it was because my parents were dormitory caretakers. People tend to judge us based on our parents, right? Our family background and financial status, too. By chance, Kevin and I ended up sitting next to each other, and during breaks, we were surrounded by boys and girls, getting attention for this and that.
Hey, did you guys do today's math homework?
Kevin and I, for some reason, didn't know there was homework, so we shook our heads.
Did you guys bring your sports uniform today?
Again, neither Kevin or I checked the schedule before coming to school, so we shook our heads. Then, the boys showed us the homework, and the girls went to borrow extra sports uniforms for us. I have no memory of being bullied. To our classmates, we were just different from the others and couldn't be ignored. However, I felt that such classmates were troublesome to me, and Kevin felt grateful. We each had our strengths. I could pass tests without studying. Kevin was incredibly talented at drawing. Although I thought Kevin was also a hassle, one day, I felt a sense of closeness. It was when I wrote about wanting to build a spaceship to go to space in an essay about my future dream. While I was reading it aloud, Kevin was drawing a picture of my ideal spaceship in his notebook. When I peeked at it after finishing, I was deeply moved. Kevin, who could depict what was in my mind so vividly, was truly amazing. I thought sincerely. Kevin, can I have this?
You want it, sure.
I liked that drawing so much that I still have it displayed in my office. After that, I started discussing various future scenarios with Kevin and asking him to draw specific pictures for me. Although we weren't always together, I talked to Kevin more than any other classmate. Even in high school, my unique relationship with Kevin continued. Kevin, ever thought about becoming an artist? I asked him one summer during our last year of high school.
I don't think so. My parents are strict. My dad wants me to become a banker, but you know I'm not good at math.
Kevin replied, looking downcast. I had always admired Kevin's new shoes and stationery, but I realized I wouldn't want to be limited by someone else's decisions about my future. On my end, instead of landing a job as per the norm, I received an offer for free admission to a specialized program at a university in the UK, where I could pursue studies tailored to my interests, thanks to my exceptional performance on IQ tests and nationwide exams. I had the freedom to learn what I wanted, so Kevin's lack of options seemed tough to me. Well then, I'll teach you math, Kevin.
Really? That'd be great.
I taught Kevin math on and off. Kevin ended up parsing the university recommended by his father, whether he wanted it or not. We only saw it twice after we graduated, I think. The first time we saw was when I temporarily returned from the UK. During Kevin's lunch break, we ate together at a hamburger joint near his workplace. Kevin had become a banker as his father had wanted, and although he still smiled, his face looked tired. Is it tough being a banker?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm being called the dumb son.
That's about all I remember from that conversation. The second time was when I was setting up my office in New York. When it came to setting up my account and others, I remembered there was a banker I could reach out to. We were both 26 years old at the time. Kevin had become a section chief, thanks to his father's promotion to branch manager at the major bank. Before I set up the New York office, I had been a student in the UK and had been setting aside investment funds. It might have been peanuts for the big banks, but Kevin welcomed me to the boardroom as a businessman and took care of the paperwork diligently. Kevin's father also came to handle the matter, given his higher position, but his attitude was somewhat off. He seemed haughty. It was odd to hear him call his own son a dumb son. Kevin was working hard to become a banker, just as his father wished. Even at that time, I could sense Kevin's limitations and couldn't help but feel sorry for him. When I shared this with Megan, she responded with a complicated expression, saying,
Kevin's father is currently the president of the bank. Since I understand the relationship between Kevin and you, I believe a casual reply would be acceptable for personal matters. However, if you have the opportunity to meet with Mr. Parker, please be sure to be respectful.
Megan emphasized, but since I was going to see Kevin, his father didn't matter. Still, I hoped Kevin could gain a bit more freedom. On the day of the alumni reunion, there were no special tasks scheduled until the evening. However, at noon, we received an urgent request from Germany. They asked me to collect and send some vintage clothes in New York as soon as possible. My company also handles international requests. Megan secured the personnel and immediately dispatched them, but it seems that the manager of the vintage clothing store, the #1 target who handles that brand, is off today and won't open the shop. I immediately called the manager. Hey, Jonathan, you're off today. What are you up to right now? Behind Jonathan's phone call, I could hear the roar of a motor.
Daniel. Oh, I'm out fishing right now, in Montauk.
Oh, really? So, the shop won't be open today?
Sorry, but it's impossible.
I thought so, and decided to bring up something special. Remember that 1915 denim you were talking about? I managed to get it. There was a clattering sound from the phone. It seemed like Jonathan dropped his smartphone.
Wait, you're kidding, right? Is it really true? I'll be at the shop in 3 hours.
Jonathan was a vintage enthusiast I met at a bar somewhere in England. Requests to gather specific vintage items are quite common, so I've been making good use of his shop. People I meet somewhere around the world might not exactly be friends, but there are plenty of them. We always exchange contact information because you never know how we might help each other out. After I hung up the phone, Megan said incredulously,
Sir, well, in a good way, you really are a savvy businessman.
I went all the way to Jonathan's shop, purposely wearing those denim jeans. When I tried them on, I couldn't figure out what was so great about them. As soon as Jonathan saw me, he clung to my feet and shouted,
Take them off, please.
I immediately took them off and received some vintage sweatpants lying around instead. With that, the daytime task was completed, but it was already getting late in the afternoon. I decided to head straight to the Manhattan alumni gathering venue. The venue was a grand hall in a fancy hotel, almost like where they hold wedding receptions. At the reception desk of the venue, I had a bit of a hassle about my attire.
Sir, we have a dress code at this hotel.
Is it because I'm wearing sweats?
That's correct. We'd appreciate it if you could change into a shirt with a collar or something similar.
I thought it wasn't very efficient to buy clothes just for today or have Megan bring me a change of clothes. Then, luckily, Kevin showed up. Since I came to see Kevin, I didn't really have to go to the party. In that sense, I thought it was lucky, but Kevin was negotiating with the reception to let me into the venue without having to change. While Kevin was negotiating, there was a beautiful woman dressed up next to me. She smiled and nodded lightly at me, and I returned the gesture.
If it is, I will allow him only this time. Next time, please dress up.
The receptionist had no choice but to say so.
Thank you.
Kevin replied as he returned to me and the beautiful woman. I wondered if Kevin had also become important in the bank. As I was thinking about it, Kevin came back to me with a big smile and hugged me.
Daniel, long time no see.
Kevin, who clung to me like a puppy and rejoiced, is still the same straightforward guy he was in elementary school. After he expressed his joy for a while, Kevin introduced me to a beauty.
This is Nicole Thompson. She's my fiancée.
Nice to meet you.
Nicole said to me with a smile. I returned the gesture with a nice to meet you, too, and then congratulated Kevin with words of blessing. Then, I extended my hand to Nicole for a handshake, but she just smiled and didn't reach out her hand. Oh well, I thought, and I put my hand on Kevin's shoulder and entered the venue. Under a large chandelier, a standing party began. Many classmates gathered around Kevin and Nicole, but no one approached me to talk. I ate and waited until Kevin had some free time. Since I don't drink alcohol, I felt bored and sleepy after eating my fill. I arranged 3 chairs at the corner and lay down.
Hey, look over there.
I heard voices, but I ignored them and went back to sleep. When I woke up and checked the clock, it seemed that about 30 minutes had passed. I suddenly noticed that someone was standing beside the chair. It was Nicole. Oh, Nicole, are you also taking a break from eating? Nicole was looking at me with a completely different, mean expression than when we met at the reception.
Daniel, what's wrong with you? Who sleeps in a place like this? You're quite rude, aren't you?
Is that so? I replied and sat up. Even after a while, Nicole didn't seem to want to leave my side. Aren't you going to Kevin's? Glaring at me with annoyance, Nicole said,
I shouldn't have joined him. Kevin was just chatting away with his classmates.
Yeah, well, it's a reunion, isn't it? Kevin hasn't seen his classmates in ages, right? Couldn't you just wait a bit? My words seemed to have rubbed Nicole the wrong way, as she appeared irritated.
Oh, what's the deal with that woman? Is she an ex or something? I came here to see if Kevin's got some side chick.
I'm not good with these types of women. Kevin would never cheat. She's Kevin's fiancée, but she doesn't know him. Well, since you're engaged, shouldn't you just chill out? I said it casually, but Nicole visibly trembled with anger, genuinely upset. She said it with a face like a furious goddess.
You have nothing to do with this, right? I don't want to be ordered around by some uncouth person who shows up in tracksuit. Everyone was saying you're from an orphanage, PUA, and a weirdo with no friends, right? You're the opposite of Kevin. Don't you dare cling to him. Cut ties with him, you poor loser. You're not suitable as Kevin's friend.
Why do I have to endure such abuse? The relationships between me and Kevin and Nicole are different, aren't they? You shouldn't suspect Kevin. Just relax a bit. Kevin is not the kind of guy who engages in casual relationships. I thought I was making a valid point. But Nicole couldn't tolerate it.
Don't mess with me.
Nicole, who seemed to be holding back until then, suddenly raised her voice considerably. Hearing her voice, the venue became restless, and Kevin came running over to us.
What's going on? What happened, Daniel? Nicole?
Kevin asked, and Nicole was crying, covering her face. I felt troubled. Whatever the circumstances, I must have done something wrong to make someone else's fiancé cry. As I hesitated about how to explain, curious classmates also gathered around. My bad, Nicole. I went too far. Hearing my apology, Nicole's eyes lit up, and she hugged Kevin.
Daniel said unbelievable things to me. He said I'm not worthy of Kevin, and we should break up.
The classmates started whispering bad things about me. So, I'm sorry. I kept apologizing, wondering if I should have put it that way. While Kevin comforted Nicole, he flashed me a weak smile, saying, "It's okay." I made the reunion awkward, so I'll head out. Sorry, everyone. As I headed towards the exit, Kevin followed me. Nicole tagged along. She probably didn't want to be left alone in that situation. The three of us walked in silence, past the reception, and reached the hotel entrance.
Shall I call a car for you? How many cars would you like?
Just one. I replied to the staff, then turned to Kevin and asked, "Hey, your fiancé said I should break up with you. Should I?" Kevin, clearly shocked, struggled to find the right words.
What?
There, Nicole, who wasn't crying anymore, interjected with a confident attitude.
That's right, Kevin. Daniel should live in a different world from us, right? I can't be with him.
I thought she's quite versatile, changing her attitude so swiftly, and I said, "No, I'm asking Kevin here. Isn't that what you want?" Kevin squeezed his eyes shut, it seeming to hold back tears. But tears still streamed down when he opened them.
Yeah, let's do that.
Nicole looked satisfied. I accepted Kevin's words. Got it. See you, Kevin. I hopped into a taxi, leaving Kevin and Nicole behind without looking back. 3 days later, I found myself facing Kevin and his father, Mr. Randy Parker. This was the reception room of the headquarters of a major bank where Randy serves as the head. Randy and many other bankers were present. Of course, Kevin is among them.
Could you reconsider, please?
Randy was repeating to me. I came here to cancel the $1 billion that I had deposited in this bank, because Kevin said he would cut ties with me. For me, it became a good opportunity to make a fresh start. I thought the time had finally come to pursue the dream I had since childhood. I will build spaceships and stations. No matter how much money you have, it's never enough. So, I daringly moved the small amount of money I had on hand little by little to create this much capital. I entrusted all of that capital to the bank where Kevin, who had always supported my dream without mocking it, worked. I came to cancel it because Kevin said it was no longer necessary. When I conveyed that at the counter, the bank immediately ushered me into the reception room, and Randy slid in. I knew that canceling my account would cause quite a stir at this bank, but it should be a good thing for Kevin.
Please reconsider once more.
Sorry, but it's impossible. I need the money. I looked at Kevin, who was looking down. Then, Kevin raised his thumb. Yo, that's the right move after all. I asked Randy. What's your dream, Randy? Randy stumbled over his words as he answered.
My dream? Well, my dream is the harmony of my family and the peace of the bank.
Since I didn't get the gist of it, I asked another question. What does family happiness mean to you, Randy? Randy couldn't answer. Well, you can't really shout out about your family happiness in public, can you? Treating Kevin like a pawn, calling him stupid, and thinking that's happiness. I waited a bit, but since there was no answer, I decided to leave. I left the rest to Megan. A month later, the news of the major bank facing bankruptcy crisis shook the world. Megan and I were already in Washington when we found out about it online.
Well, there's nothing we can do. You had to spend the money.
Yo, that's right. Finally, the first step of the dream begins. Negotiations with NASA required the cooperation of many people I had met before. Every time I met someone, I was often asked why I didn't do it in New York, but the real reason was too immature to say. I haven't told Megan about it. The only one who knows is Kevin. I don't have time to think about the commotion in New York. Every day, I devoted myself to realizing my dream. Such days continued for about 3 months. Although I'm still busy with negotiations, contracts, and staffing, today Megan arranged for me to have the day off. I was at the airport. Kevin is arriving on the afternoon flight today. When Kevin's flight arrived, he waved and smiled at me. I couldn't help but shed tears unexpectedly.
Oh, are you crying, Daniel?
Shut up. There's a lot of sand in the desert.
Stop saying that. You're actually happy that our estrangement is over, aren't you?
Honestly, that was true. When I withdrew all the funds, I truly intended to cut ties with Kevin. Losing one friend, well, I only had one to begin with, but I didn't think it would be a problem. However, it turns out that severing ties with me was difficult even for Kevin, who had many friends. The call suddenly came to Megan last week. Since then, Kevin has lost his job along with his father, and the engagement with Nicole is off. Understanding that this was going to happen, I planned to sever ties with Kevin and have him cancel the deposit. I believed that Kevin's happiness also lay in being free like that, and he felt the same way. When he finally quit his job as a banker, lost many acquaintances, and even after a while, Kevin was filled with joy at experiencing true freedom for the first time in his life. But then, one day, when he found his elementary school notebook and looked inside, he realized that freedom alone didn't necessarily mean happiness. The notebook was filled with my enthusiasm and drawings of Kevin, next to my writing that said, "I'll find them for you, stupid parents, and I'll find my parents from space." There was a drawing by Kevin showing me alongside unfamiliar, kindly parents.
Freedom alone doesn't make for a full life like Daniel's. Life is energized only when you have freedom and goals.
That's what Kevin said when we finally talked on the phone with Megan's intervention. I thought, what's he on about? But why not just draw pictures? That's how Kevin responded.
My goal is to help Daniel to find his parents. My life feels empty without Daniel around.
Why is he so straightforward? If I were capable of speaking such candid words, I could have been kinder to other people. Even with my classmates, my coworkers, and Nicole, I could have been kinder. There's no bigger fool than someone who makes me regret my life. All right, come to Washington, I replied, and then cried in hiding from Megan after hanging up the phone. I honestly thought I'd hate my life without Kevin in it. Friendships weren't easy. If you treat them lightly, they turn out to be no good. To make me feel that way, Kevin must be something else. So, Kevin, who came to Washington under those circumstances, immediately started helping me with my work the next day. At first, I was planning to have him handle clerical tasks, but Kevin turned out to be surprisingly good at negotiating with clients. Unlike me and Megan, who couldn't hold their liquor, not only could Kevin drink as much as he wanted without getting drunk, but he was also a genius at diving into the hearts of others. I wondered how he found such openings, as he skillfully won over the hearts of our negotiating partners, one after another, and sealed the deals that I had struggled with for a long time. It was as if he could perform magic. However, I didn't think we could use the same tactics we had always kept in mind for our last stronghold. That was the case with Octopus Corporation, a strict and conservative giant even in America. It took us 3 months just to arrange negotiations with them. We kept getting the documents returned due to errors. Even though I scrutinized them like crazy, I couldn't find any mistakes. At my wit's end, I paid an informant and found out that we weren't supposed to sign in cursive. In the entire world, Octopus Corporation was the only one known to reject applications for such a reason. They had its own unique set of rules that set it apart from others. Once we finally entered negotiations, the negotiators from Octopus Corporation wouldn't say a word in response. Despite being confident in my ability to speak logically in my work, I was completely baffled. Megan and I brainstormed various strategies and approached them every time, but we weren't making any progress at all. We had received an invitation to the company party from Octopus Corporation. I didn't think I needed to attend the party since I couldn't have any personal conversations there anyway. However, Kevin was different.
There's no option not to go. There's no way they won't talk at the party either.
Both Megan and I looked at Kevin with admiration. He was right. There's no such thing as a silent party. We signaled our intention to attend. On the day of the party, Megan and I were dressed in formal attire. Yet, for some reason, Kevin was wearing a 3-stripe tracksuit. That's not good, man.
And what makes you say that, Daniel?
But Megan said,
I see. Kevin. If you don't stand out, you lose, right?
Lately, Megan had placed immense trust in Kevin. Kevin reassured me, saying it would be fine to enter the reception in formal attire, and laughed. With a slight sense of unease, I headed to the party. Most of the people in the hall were dressed up, and there were a few people in casual wears. Among them, Kevin was the only one in a tracksuit. And Kevin went on to talk only to the casually dressed people. In the middle of the party, an astonishing fact was announced. All the casually dressed individuals were employees of Octopus Corporation. This was part of Octopus Corporation's unique scheme, and it was declared that any company that did not interact with casually dressed individuals would be asked to leave. The attendees, who had previously only spoken to formally dressed individuals for the purpose of business deals, were left gaping as they were escorted out. We looked for Kevin. Kevin was chatting and enjoying wine with the t-shirt-clad employees.
Daniel, Megan, over here.
Invited by Kevin, we were introduced. On closer inspection, the person we were being introduced to turned out to be the negotiators with whom we had silently negotiated multiple times. Today, they were surprisingly talkative and cheerful. Leaving the scene to Megan for a moment, I asked Kevin how he had seen through the scheme.
Did you read the invitation properly? It said it was an at-home party, didn't it?
It was indeed written like that, but almost every party is labeled as such as a formality. No one really perceives it as at home. When I mentioned this to Kevin, he responded,
I just took it at face value. If Octopus Corporation wanted to have a strict party, they would write it that way. The corporation is too serious to write vague things, but even though I was skeptical, I had Daniel and Megan dress formally.
With a slightly flushed face from alcohol, Kevin said this smoothly. and he seemed like a god. Returning to the group, as I tried to engage in as casual a conversation as possible, one of the employees from Octopus Corporation asked me,
"Why do you want to build a spaceship here? Couldn't you do it in New York?"
Asked in such a casual tone, I attempted to provide a well-structured reason as I always do, but I found myself hesitating. It didn't feel like the atmosphere to talk formally. Yet, the real reason seemed too trivial. Then Kevin responded in a light-hearted manner.
Well, you see, when he was in elementary school, he decided he wanted to search for his real parents from the sky of space, so he wouldn't miss them no matter where they were. That's why he decided to come to Washington, where NASA is, at an early age. But you shouldn't laugh at his misunderstanding. He thought that from the spaceship that took off from New York, only New York would be visible. He's incredibly smart, but sometimes a bit clueless.
I felt so embarrassed that I wanted to run away. When I was a small kid, I genuinely thought that way, and one day, I realized the elementary mistake that, from space, the difference between states didn't matter. But that's what sparked this dream. Because I'm a grown adult now, I don't really believe that I'll find my parents. However, the feelings from that dream were real. I kept the true reason hidden and never told anyone. Even though the folks from Octopus Corporation were having fun today in casual attire, they're actually a bunch of serious science types. Bringing up such a story might be seen as a weakness on our part. But Kevin kept on talking.
Didn't we all have dreams when we were kids? Wanted to be Superman, right? But as we grew up, we couldn't fly, we weren't super strong, and we gave up. But there's no one who didn't give up. Isn't it amazing to keep holding on to the same dream?
I was surprised when I looked up and almost shouted, "Stop it." Even the folks from Octopus Corporation and even Megan were in tears. One of them locked eyes with me and ran over, tears streaming down their face.
"You are our family."
And they gave me such a tight hug that it almost hurt. Later on, when the contract offer came from Octopus Corporation, along with the embarrassment, I felt genuinely happy. I thanked Kevin. "Thank you." When I conveyed my gratitude to Kevin, he smiled and gave a thumbs up. I've heard that there are pathways of human emotions that I don't understand at all, which seem to exist in society. Belatedly, I realized that these are sometimes necessary even in business. After sorting out various contract matters, we went on a picnic on a pleasantly windy Sunday. Since coming to Washington, I had been nervous all the time, so spending an ordinary holiday was a first for me.
We have such a cozy park nearby, right?
Kevin was running around like a kid. Megan promptly spread out her homemade sandwiches. Come to think of it, having a picnic with someone was also a first for me. Turns out it's more enjoyable than I thought. Not doing anything constructive. Just breathing, gazing at nature, and lying down. In the past, I would have thought this time was wasted. But today, I feel like I'm spending precious time. With Kevin here, and Megan too. There's an invaluable sense of security in their presence. I may never find my parents in the future, but I feel happy knowing I have people like family who should be cherished. I'll keep working towards my dreams without forgetting this feeling.